Welcome back to Long Distance Work Life, where we help you lead, work, and thrive in remote and hybrid teams. I'm Marisa Eikenberry, fellow remote worker, and joining me is remote work expert and my co-host, Wayne Turmel. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, I'm here until I am replaced by our robot overlords.
Every time. But listeners, so some of you who have been listening to the show for a while, you heard us talk about Zoom and some of the AI stuff that's being added to all kinds of different platforms and not just Zoom itself. And so we wanted to take a little bit of that and talk about AI and onboarding and how those two could kind of come together. And in true AI fashion, we decided to get a little meta and ask, I believe it was Copilot, right, Wayne?
Yeah, so here's the deal. We have been playing with various things, what is it that we're worried about, right? And one of the hardest things for remote and hybrid teams is onboarding employees.
Right.
And I have sat through enough HR software webinars taking the bullets so you don't have to, dear listener. And one of the things that they say all the time is, well, it can help with onboarding. And me being me went, okay, how?
Right. Tell me.
Seems a reasonable question. And so, as Marisa says, we decided, let's see what AI has to say about this, and then we will respond. And so, as it turns out, I was using Copilot.
Right.
A lot of people who don't work with this day in and day out assume that ChatGPT is the kind of default. It's the one that they know. It's the Kleenex, right? It's the whatever,
the Xerox.
The generic, the Xerox of the AI world. And in fact, I had dinner the other night with somebody who uses 3 services. She uses ChatGPT, she uses Google Bard, and she uses Microsoft Copilot. And they all have their charms. So this is not a recommendation. I will tell you that I use Copilot for the simple reason that my free ChatGPT account ran out and I just didn't feel like paying for it. Whereas because I am a Microsoft Office 365 user, I get Copilot for free. Done, sold, sign me up. The other thing that Copilot does, which I like, and this is as close to a recommendation as you're going to get, folks, is that what I like is that Copilot gives you the source from which they drew the information. So if it's an article, some of it, for example, you look and go, oh, that's paid content.
Right.
So I need to take that with a grain of salt. I like having the source content available. So we did. The question was, and I asked very politely because I'm very polite to these machines.
I mean, I say thank you to our Echo all the time.
Alexa and I am extremely, extremely kind. But the question was, what are 5 ways AI can assist in onboarding new employees? This is a very real problem that people are having, right? And so they came up with 5 ways.
Right. And so, like, I was going to say, I'm looking at the first one right now, and one of the first ones it talks about is time efficiency, and how, onboarding takes a while. Like, we've all been there.
Well, it does take a while, and there are even the less obvious things. Like, I know my boss told me this yesterday in the 3-hour orientation brain dump that I was given, but I can't remember, where do I find X?
Right.
Right. AI is great for, hey, Copilot, where the heck do I find that?
Yeah. Well, and I know that some people are also doing like employee handbooks or something to also make documentation. So that way you're not asking Susie every 5 minutes where something is, because she might kill you if you ask too many questions.
Now, actually, one of the things that we need to preface this with, because I ran into somebody who was a little confused, and not everybody who listens to this clearly is an expert in such things. Some of us who speak on it are barely experts in such things. But it was clear If your company has a paid account and the AI is tied to your internal network and to your internal content, it will find anything.
Yes.
And if I'm a new employee and I don't even know the name of something and I don't know exactly where it is on the drive and it's hidden over here. And by the way, you don't have to be a new employee. I frequently, because we have 13 people, I've been here 10 years. Our KEG Google Drive is insanely dense with content.
Yeah, it's massive.
It's massive. And not everybody uses the same thought process as to where that file is.
Right.
And so if I'm looking for what is the password to get onto our corporate Zoom account to lead a webinar, we've got several accounts.
Right.
Where the heck is the password for that?
Right. Because you might look for it in a place that wasn't where I put it.
I did not know that information is on the tech team folder.
Yeah.
Not what I would have thought it'd be under instructor materials, because the instructor might need to know how to get on. So that kind of thing is great. And when you're a new employee, when you're struggling to learn stuff, you don't always know the question to ask, and you're afraid to ask the question because you know somebody just told you this yesterday.
Right. Like I said, you don't ask too many questions or Susie will kill you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually a really, really powerful tool just right there.
Right.
The ability to do that. Now, again, if your AI is not connected to the network, you're going to get somebody else's.
Yeah.
You're going to get all kinds of useless information.
Right.
But so yes, your organization, in order to optimize AI, must have it reading your network, or you're not going to get the value of this.
Well, and real quick, we've talked about this too in our previous episode where you were talking about, my boss just said this in a meeting the other day. If you have like AI set up for like Zoom or something like that, it can give you action items or, here's the main points of this meeting. And so you might be able to consult that instead of asking your boss again.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in Microsoft Teams, you can punch in the date of the meeting and, assuming your IT department has set it up, actually find that stuff.
Oh, that's fascinating.
What I have started doing is on sales calls is I will say to the customer, do you mind if I run this in the background? Because it's going to take way better notes than I can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then you get to focus on the conversation. You don't have to focus on making sure that you've typed everything.
Exactly right. And by the way, it does a really, really good job.
Yeah.
Everything I've done, Teams, Zoom, any AI that's attached to WebEx, any AI that's attached to that has been trained really well to take good notes. And you will remember who gets what action item and who raised this issue and like that.
Right.
So for time efficiency, first thing Copilot told me, time efficiency, the answer is yes.
Okay.
We dig that.
So what about the next one it had was personalization. So it said you can utilize AI and machine learning. Onboarding programs can be tailored to match the specific skill set and needs of a new hire, and personalized training and materials and resources. I'm failing to see where AI helps with this, but maybe you can see that.
Like everything else, I mean, you and I were talking earlier, the answer you get depends on the question that you ask.
Oh, of course.
So if, as you are creating orientation materials, if you are creating an employee handbook and you label things as, or you tag them as useful for beginners, useful for onboarding, useful for orientation, somebody who's looking for that will find what they're looking for versus somebody else who's just looking for general information. Personalization, what AI can do this is both the beauty and the terrifying thing.
Okay.
Is the more you use it and the more it knows you, the more it will find what you are looking for or what is useful to you. At the beginning, it's going to be, in general, new hires want to know this.
Right.
It's going to be more specific. The machine will learn, oh, this is Wayne. He's in accounting. He works with these particular clients. And so the searches will get infinitely more granular.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when they say personalization, it's not, I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave. It's not like that, right? We're not going there. And if you are under 40 or not a nerd, it's a movie reference. Just stick with us. Well, so when it says personalization, that's what it's talking about. The more it interfaces with you and learns who you are, the more it will exclude extraneous information and give you the stuff that is really relevant.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like, too, from the basically someone has to set up the stuff ahead of time for the AI to even see it correctly.
Everything is in the setup. And where that becomes really important is actually the third thing that it came up with, which is 24/7 support, which is all about chatbots.
Right.
And, your boss is not always going to be available to you when you need them. The person you're asking may be in Singapore, and when you're starting your day, they're going to bed. I mean, there's realistic. We need information when we need it.
Right. And we already know how powerful chatbots can be anyway. I know that we have one on the DISC site right now. So discpersonalitytesting.com. And for those of you who have heard us talk about this before, like, our support team is 2 people. And we have to sleep sometime. So the chatbot's been really helpful because we've put stuff into it to say, here's how we say this. Here's all these videos. Here's all these transcripts. So it's learning off of us. And it can answer a lot of these questions that we're asleep and can't answer it right now.
Well, and I just came back from a conference of HR and learning technology. And oh my gosh, like, even since last year's ATD conference, which is the last time I walked an expo floor and saw this stuff, they are so much more sophisticated and personalized, and you can set the level of formality. Do you want it super friendly and chatty, or do you want, give me the facts and give me what I'm looking for? And incredibly sophisticated and deep searches, and the ability to figure out what you meant to say, which is not, if you go into Google right now, if you go into Google and you say, I want to know this, and I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I want to know this, it will give you exactly what you ask for, but that may not be what you really want to know.
Yeah. You're going to call it X, but it's actually called something else.
Yeah. If I call it, where is the customer service file for XYZ customer, and your organization calls it a service response file. A Google search engine is going to struggle a little bit to come up with what you need. Whereas, I'll give you a non-work example because I just stumbled across this. And, some of the people who listen to this know that I write novels in my spare time. And so because I've got a book coming out, I was trying to figure out some marketing materials. And I said, give me 5 comparable titles to the Johnny Like and Werewolf PI series. And the results were really odd, and they were really kind of uneven, and some were historical fiction, and some were this, and some were that. So I took a second shot at it, and I said, give me comparable titles to the urban fantasy, detective noir, Johnny Like and Werewolf PI series.
Right.
I got exactly the 7 comp titles which were most popular, most recent, exactly the list I needed.
Yeah, I mean, we've known for a long time. The more specific you get, it helps a lot.
Yeah. But AI is getting a lot better at, I see what you were trying to say.
Right.
So it's getting better at that.
It's
and
almost
of
like,
course,
dumb human. I'll fix it for you.
Well, it's funny because a lot of us look at chatbots as, oh, great, I have to deal with a chatbot because they can't be bothered hiring a human who can actually interact with me.
And that's not necessarily.
And there is some of that.
Yeah,
well, to be fair, there is some of that going on, but it is more than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having a human answer your questions is great until you've actually dealt with a human.
Yes.
There's no guarantee you're going to get what you're looking for. And then, of course, the fourth thing was data-driven insights, which is it will find the data. If the data is out there, it will find it and crunch it and give it to you, probably in ways that you don't expect. But that feedback, the accuracy and the speed of that feedback, and then you can go back and say, tell me more about this, is going to be just impressive and huge. Which brings us to the last thing that Copilot said, which is it's about engagement. AI can create a modern and engaging onboarding experience, making new employees feel valued and accelerating their assimilation into the company culture. And I say, huh?
I was going to say, this one sounds like we're waving a BS flag. Like, we're with you on all the other four, but this one might not be it.
Yeah, it's like, does this help engagement? And I'm still not entirely sure that people's default should be to the machines.
Right.
Now, some of this may be just cranky old white guy who's saying, well, I'll use it when I need it, and the rest of the time, let me interact with humans. But there is, especially in the onboarding process, which let's not forget, this is what we're talking about here.
Right.
The onboarding process is where the relationships get built. It's where people decide the level of engagement that they're going to have with their employer and their coworkers and their team. And while there may be people who say, I would rather deal with Copilot than Bob because Bob is mean to me in meetings, realistically, I think we need to not default, especially in the very early days, weeks, months of a new hire or bringing people on or orientation. I think we still need to get them to connect with the people.
Absolutely.
And so we need to be really, really leery of that. That's kind of where I'm. So that was it. We asked, hey, give us 5 ways AI can assist in onboarding, and with all the caveats that we have mentioned, and they are not to be underestimated.
Right.
There's 5 ways they can help. 4 of the 5, I don't disagree with. I think they need to be done thoughtfully. They need to be done intentionally, all of that good stuff. The engagement piece, I don't know. But what else is AI going to say?
Right, exactly. Well, and
we asked AI. It's like if you come to me and say, what do you do with this? I'm going to say, well, let me help you.
Right.
And who doesn't want Wayne helping them, for corn's sake?
Well.
Oh, ow. Okay, here's something AI doesn't do. It doesn't get snarky. It doesn't do sarcasm worth a darn.
I was like, it can get snarky. It depends on how you run the GPT. But listeners, if you've worked with any sort of onboarding things with AI, or if you've seen it in your company or stuff, please let us know, because we would love to hear from you on that. And Wayne, thank you so much for this conversation. And thank you for putting this into Copilot, because my default is ChatGPT. But this was a really great conversation. I'm really excited to continue talking more about AI and how it can help with remote work. And listeners, thank you so much for listening to Long Distance Work Life. For show notes, transcripts, and other resources, make sure to visit longdistanceworklife.com. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. While you're there, be sure to like and review. This helps us know what you love about our show. Feel free to contact us via email or LinkedIn with the links in our show notes. And let us know that you listened to this episode or suggest another episode or another topic for Wayne and I to tackle in another episode. And
for the record, we like nonviolent, respectful counter opinions. Don't be afraid to tell us where you think we're wrong.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because we would love to do an episode about that. And in some cases, we may try to change your mind. But we'll see. But if you want to know more about how to work with and manage remote teams, please check out the Long Distance Leadership Series, which you can learn more about at kevineikenberry.com/LDLS. Thank you for joining us. And as Wayne likes to say, don't let the weasels get you down.